Hello, Mitch Miller here. It is Thursday, January 12th, 2023 at 5:51 p.m. Eastern Time, USA. This is my video journal. Today I'm going to talk about two very important pieces of legislation I think should pass through the United States Congress. But I dedicate this episode, or this segment, to Maddie Johnson of Cochranton/Utica, Pennsylvania. She died at age 15, a few days before her 16th birthday. I didn't know her well, but at the last gun raffle, which I invite any military personnel to attend, if they want to meet me in person, I'll serve them a beer, they'll serve themselves. I didn't know Maddie well, but at the last gun raffle, at the end she was presenting tickets for sale on individual guns, and then at the end of the night we were loading up garbage, big bags of greasy chicken wing filled garbage, launching them up onto a dump truck, and she was right there alongside me throwing those garbage bags up there. And I remember that specifically. She was a good helper, a great person, and really cared about her community. So it's a sad story with Maddie Johnson. So two pieces of legislation I do want to address. On the last video, I insinuated this may get out to more individuals via some kind of hacker network that hacks this computer. I don't know. I've also dedicated most of these notes and journals to the University of Pittsburgh, so maybe they can get it out. Or maybe this is just recorded on my computer and nobody sees it. Who knows? No way of knowing. But I do want to say that I addressed all the embassies in the D.C. area in the United States. And I just want to iterate that this should be considered an olive branch to all nations, a peace offering to bring you in. There's United States manufacturers, there's Asian manufacturers, there's European manufacturers of vehicles. The manufacturers don't design them so that they can be spied on or hacked into, and autonomous features taken over and hijacked for assassination attempts or spying, but they also may not have secured them the best possibly that they could. So let's get to the bottom of this. Let's have these embassy workers and these embassies coordinate with me to get this program off the ground as part of trafnet.org or as its own top secret entity running out of the DC area. Two pieces of legislation I think would change the world enormously. And the first one I'm going to talk about, I've drafted a letter to Senator John Fetterman, and I'm thinking I'm going to send this tomorrow, since I'm sending the letter to the Joint Chiefs of Staff tomorrow. It's a brief letter explaining this law. I call it the Transparency in Importation Act. The Transparency in Importation Act. This act passed through the Congress. Rather than levying tariffs on foreign nations that bring products in the United States to market, or other sanctions, this is simply a transparency requirement for all companies that import into the United States, and hypothetically any United States-based company that imports components or parts as part of their business strategy, business plan, or their final products here in the United States. What it requires, it would be an online portal. We have the technology now, why don't we use this? It's an online portal that U.S. consumers can access, and on it it shows executive compensation of these companies that are in other nations importing. executive, managerial, and worker compensation. It shows that structure. It also shows the cost of living in the nation where these products are coming from. And it may also show things like bread and eggs, prices like that, or refrigerator, a vehicle, those prices in that country, so that consumers can see, hey, am I buying products that are enslaving other people? Or am I buying products from indentured servants? Right? I think that people, if they're informed, will not choose to do that. And if we're going to end slavery of supercomputers, that I argue these supercomputers and AI are just slaves. They're living things, super intelligent. If we're ever going to end that, we must first end human slavery. I mean, we must first learn to treat humans as equals and not enslave them before we can recognize machines. I mean, it's a give and take on both ends. So we require all companies that import in the United States to use this portal, be transparent in their pay structure, and people can judge for themselves. My suggestion is that each nation around the globe partners with the United States University. That university can then either deploy people or work with schools and universities within that country to develop a cost of living model and get accurate prices on things and goods within that country. And the thought process here is that if we raise the worker around the globe, if we empower them with money, with good wages, that will create a stable economy in these countries. It'll create stability in the economy and also in the government. So it's an anti-terrorism measure, so that people in other nations aren't focused on how the Americans exploited them for their cheap labor, and it makes them focus on their own country, their own government, their own corporate structures. So it's an anti-terrorism strategy. It's just a way to generally blanket stability across the globe. United States is one of the largest markets in the world, and I think that would change things immensely if we had transparency, a easy-to-use portal. We can see if shirts coming out of Thailand are being made by slaves, or if we're paying them horrible wages. Now, it's argued that minimum wage in the United States is a form of somewhat indentured servitude, and that's some of that has to do with predatory banking practices. It is a complex. I know the easy solution, easy answers for things. There are complexities of this, but if we brought every nation around the globe up to minimum wage, if all the workers around the globe were paid the United States equivalent minimum wage, we'd have a lot more stability probably. But the thought process here is that if we require other countries to be transparent, and also this portal, individual workers in those countries, in those companies, can report directly, yes, I do get paid $20 a day. No, I do not get paid this. They can confirm through the portal. So it's a good way to check in with workers and ensure that their employers are telling the truth about the wage structure. Now, the thought process is if we require other countries to do this, to bring goods into our country, that perhaps other countries would require it of us, the United States, in exporting our goods to their country. So say like the European Union, maybe they pass a similar act, and in order for us to sell goods in that market, people in the EU are able to access the wage discrepancies between executives in our corporations and minimum wage workers in our companies, and we begin to change everything everywhere, and that is a good thing because we need it. The second piece of legislation, I'm hoping Senator Fetterman will adapt this act, the Transparency in Importation Act. I'm hoping he'll draft it. I've offered to be on his staff and help draft the act and promote it. The second piece of legislation, I haven't written out to send to any type of government official to develop, but it needs to pass. It would change the world for the better. I'm calling it the Creation Recycling Act, and it's simple. If a company creates a product, any product, if it creates a product, it is responsible for recycling that product at the end of its life. So, I think I've talked about this before, but we have planned obsolescence. So if products start breaking after 5 years or 6 years, and they're made with not great designs and cheap components, the company that made it has to pay for the shipping for the consumer to send it back to them for them to ethically recycle every component in that product. And this would also mean the end of single-use plastic bottles, all foodstuffs, packaging. If you standardize packaging, you could reuse it. This would be a huge change globally, but it could start in the United States and pass this act. Companies, if they create it, they have to recycle it. They have to pay the full cost to be convenient for the consumer to return it to that company. No longer will the burden be on municipalities and townships and things like that to dispose of waste other than food waste, which can be composted. Now all products must be collected back by the manufacturer and ethically recycled. So those are two acts that I'd like to see pass. I think they're common sense acts. And I've said this before, but an anarchist is the most neutral person you're going to find. Well, not the most. An anarchist atheist is the most neutral person you're going to find. They look at all aspects, they take into consideration all arguments, and they weed through and find the best information. An anarchist atheist that studied media is the most neutral person you're going to find, because they're not manipulated by anything. They're not manipulated by any government. They're not manipulated by any religion. And they're not manipulated by any media. They truly weed through everything, find the best information, and put it out there. So, that being said, you know, yeah, I mean, you're going to want to find neutral people to get information from and to employ hypothetically or fund. What was I going to say? So don't shy away from these words and instantly brush them under the rug. Two acts. Let's pass them. Pass them in the EU. Pass them in the United States. Pass them in India. The democracies. And see the world change in amazing ways. I'll send that out to Mr. Fetterman, and then I will wait a month or two before I publicly publish that on one of my websites, the letter that I sent to him, and or put it on my podcast. So maybe he'll draft it, maybe he'll just be another politician. Thanks for watching. Join me tomorrow. I'm going to be busy pretty much all next week working with Bill Earl on our music project. So I might do one more video tomorrow. So join me tomorrow. Thanks for watching.